Hello, Eyelet teachers, it's Tom again. In this session, you will learn about an important part of teaching, the lesson plan. By the end of this session, we hope that you will be able to create your own lesson plan that will be part of the work you do at this virtual workshop. So grab your pen and your notebook and let's get started. In this session on lesson planning, you students will be able to identify the parts of a lesson plan, understand the purpose of SMART objectives when lesson planning, and create lesson plans using the format lesson plan template. Okay, first off, let me ask you, what is a lesson plan? A lesson plan is a written guide to help teachers effectively facilitate a lesson. Now, next question. Why do you think we need to have lesson plans? Why do teachers make them? Well, first of all, let's look at the 4 P's. What do you think those stand for? Prior planning prevents problems. So a lesson plan helps us create lessons which will then eventually lead to less problems when we're teaching. A lesson plan helps teachers to make a lesson go smoothly and efficiently, and it allows them time for reflection and evaluation so they can identify where their students need to grow and where there is a lack of attention on a specific skill. As you'll see in some of the lesson planning outlines, there's a term that's used, SWBAT, SWABAT. What do you think that means? Well, it means students will be able to. So it's a short term of, by the end of the lesson, students will be able to do this. So for example, at the beginning of this lesson, I said, students will be able to identify different parts of a lesson plan and create their own lesson plan using the format template. Now, let's look at the different parts of a lesson plan. First is the lesson title. 2, the objectives. 3, materials needed. 4, motivation. 5, information. 6, practice. And 7, application. In a few minutes, we're going to watch a video that explains in detail each part of the lesson plan. Before we look at the lesson planning video, let's talk about objectives of a lesson. When talking about objectives, we want to make sure that they're SMART, which means specific, measurable, appropriate, realistic, and time-oriented. Let's look at a few examples and you tell me, are these SMART? Students will produce a 5-paragraph essay in English in my 1-week essay writing class. I don't think it's very smart. Specifically, I don't think it's realistic to teach students to write a full 5-paragraph essay in 1 week in an essay writing class. It depends on their level, but writing is a process, and I think that's not too realistic. Next up is after 1 month, beginner students will be able to speak fluently in English. Again, I don't think this is very realistic. Do you? Next up, students will know English better after reading the book. I don't think this is very specific, do you? Well, we have to first define what book. Is it an easy book, a difficult book? We don't know, so it's not very specific. Fourthly, after the lesson, students can write a bank check in the US. Okay, imagine you have students in Ukraine or Senegal. Do they need to write a check in the United States? It's not very appropriate, do you think? And lastly, students will know how to use prepositions better. Okay, there are a lot of prepositions out there. And this one is not time-oriented, so how long do they have to learn all the prepositions? And it's not specific which prepositions. So again, this is not a clear objective. Next up, let's look at these objectives. I think they look pretty smart. First one, students will be able to create an essay introduction with a clear thesis statement and supporting ideas. I think that sounds pretty specific. Next, after learning basic conversation, questions, and responses, students will be able to ask people their name, ask about how they are, where they live, and what they do. Yep, again, that's specific, it's measurable, and I think it's appropriate. Thirdly, while reading Tuck Everlasting, students learn how to summarize main points of each chapter, identifying main characters, and use strategies for understanding new vocabulary without using the dictionary. Yep, we have a specific book, and we have measurable and appropriate items. So that's a clear objective. Next, before going to the U.S. for study, students will be able to identify different official and banking forms, understand what information is required, and practice filling out the forms correctly. So this one is appropriate because we have a group of students, probably like yourselves, who are going to the United States for a period of time. So it's time-oriented and it's appropriate to be doing in an English language classroom. Lastly, using different pictures, students will be able to use the prepositions on, in, under, above, and beside correctly. This is specific. This is good because we have 5 specific prepositions that we are going to learn. So I think these are all SMART goals. So when you're creating your lesson plan, you want to consider making your objectives for your lesson SMART. Specific, measurable, appropriate, realistic, and time-oriented. I'd like you to now go into the Padlet for the lesson planning session. Click on file number 2, the Format Lesson Plan template. There's a purple star above it, so it's not hard to miss. This shows you the 7 parts of a lesson. You will be using this in your lesson planning assignment that will be due at the end of this week. Now, click on file number 3, which is an example of the lesson plan on giving directions. As you can see, each section has been filled out with specific information for each section. In the video you are about to see, the teacher will model this lesson. So keep this lesson plan close by and follow along as you watch the video. The video you are about to see stars my friend and colleague, Cherie Diggs. I first met Cherie in Ethiopia when we were working together on an English language program there. Subsequently, she joined me in India for the LEAP program, where we created a series of teacher training videos for our teaching staff. The one that you're about to see is on lesson planning. Please note that Cherie refers to some links in the video and gives her email at the end. Please disregard these as they have been deleted from the video. If you have any questions or comments, please ask me during our debrief session which follows this tutorial. Enjoy the video and have your pen and notebook on hand to take any notes on the session and to jot any questions that may arise. At this point, please turn off the tutorial and click on the Lesson Planning with Cherie Diggs video located in the Lesson Planning Padlet. When you're finished watching the video, click back on the tutorial to continue the session. So, how'd you like the video? Informative? Hopefully, the concept of lesson planning is clearer now to you. Right now, I'd like to talk to you about your homework assignment. Yep, I'm sorry guys, but you got some homework for me, but you'll thank me later. Go into the lesson planning Padlet again, and next to the video you just viewed, in folder 5, there's an outline of the assignment for your session. Using the format lesson plan, you will create a lesson for an English language classroom. The assignment will give you a chance to create your first draft of a lesson plan. Choose one of the topics on the following page to help you create an English language lesson. Use the format lesson plan on the following page as a guide to help you. What activities are your students going to do? Then write your preliminary lesson plan. It should include the 7 parts of a lesson plan as we have discussed already. Please note your lessons should not rely heavily on YouTube videos. A video should be part of the lesson, not the whole lesson. Think of ways you can incorporate the themes and content areas into a language lesson. How can you actively learn English through them? How creative can you be at developing an interactive, engaging language lesson? The video should complement the work you're doing, not be the work you're doing. Your assignment should be submitted as a Word document via the Google Docs folder that we set up for you. Please name the assignment document as Wylet Lesson Plan and add your first and last name. A common first mistake for new teachers when planning a lesson looks something like this. We try to put too much into a lesson. Remember the word KISS. What does that stand for? Keep it short and simple. Do keep this in mind when planning your lesson. This may be the first time creating a lesson, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but try to be close to perfect. I will answer any questions you may have in our debrief that follows this session. And also, I'll be available during my office hours to help you work through your lesson plan. That now concludes our session on lesson planning, and I hope you have a clear idea of what to expect when you plan your lessons for teaching. Good luck, teachers. I know you're going to do a great job. That's all for now. See you next time.